You know, one of the joys of being a journalist is that I get to have the most amazing conversations with wonderful people, attend wonderful events. My next guest is an advocate of youth. She's a proponent for cybersecurity and the protections of our children in terms of the vulnerabilities they may have with their cell phone, their iPad, or the computer. And in protecting predators, she has created a company called Not Our Kids. Meet Miss Monee Brown. Today we have a lovely guest. She's a very special person, and her name is Monee Brown, and her company is called Not Our Kids. Miss Brown is an advocate for cybersecurity and the protection of our most precious resource, our children. Monee Brown, welcome to the show. So glad you're here today.
Thank you for having me, Carla. I feel welcomed.
Thank you. You know, our most precious resource is our children. They are the youth, they're our tomorrow. And if we can't protect them, we don't have a future.
That's correct.
And in your line of work in law enforcement as a probation officer, you really and truly saw the need, and you saw some things that were going on that were really uncool.
Yes.
And you didn't just complain about it and whine about it. You turned that moment into an entire movement.
Yes.
So tell me, Monee, how did you begin Not Our Kids?
So yeah, Not Our Kids, well, let me go back. It started 22 years ago. I retired as a probation officer with Alameda County. But during the course of my work, I saw how many kids were meeting predators online through cell phones, gaming devices. And I saw that many parents were unaware that their children were sharing location or even talking about them through the devices that they were paying for every month. And so, I don't know if you remember Redbook, but back then the kids would meet people on Redbook and MySpace. And so, since I retired, I went back and got my master's, and I did a thesis on parents' awareness of their children being sex trafficked online. And I saw that 70% of parents have never checked their kids' phones, didn't know the passwords, had never went through them, and have never told their kids the do's and don'ts of the phone. And so I wanted this to become a movement because our kids are at risk, and they're at risk of being sexualized or taken from us through devices we pay for every month. And so what came from that is 3 books.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You know, we're really quick to tell our children, don't do drugs, you know, or don't talk to strangers,
Yes.
don't open the door. But something as innocent as and as convenient as our devices, our cell phone, or the iPad, the laptop. I mean, it's almost as if we don't realize we've welcomed the enemy into our own homes.
Yes, and I just think parents unconsciously don't know. And let me just say, what we are saying is, your Uber is outside, which means that our kids are getting in cars with strangers. We also say your DoorDash is there because we order kids food, right? And so we don't know who's on the other side of the door. We also are telling our children to share location, which means that who are they sharing it with, which probably is also a stranger. So all the do's and don'ts that my mom had for me have almost went out the window because we are encouraging our children to talk to strangers all the time.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the world has changed.
Yes.
You want to adjust with it.
Yes.
But we have to have different protocols to catch up to the changes.
Yes. And one of the protocols that I'm really requesting is that parents educate themselves. For instance, when they give a child a phone, they should go over with their child and say, listen, here's one rule that I'm going to have to always have the password. Number 2, they should know to tell their child, listen, I'm going to be going through your phone, and this is why. Because when a trafficker gets you, they get me too. Because the reality is, when your child is trafficked, you are too. Because you're looking for your kid. I would hope that you would be looking for your child. And traffickers are trying to get information about your child and you, because that is the power they would have over the child. And so they may ask things like, hey, what's your mom's name? Carla. Where does your mom work? Oh, she works at such and such news station, right? And so that is the control and the manipulation that they would have over your child.
You know, and it's so subtle. I remember you sharing with me that, you know, in taking pride in your child graduating from, say, middle school,
Yes.
you may encourage your Facebook people or your Instagram followers to Cash App them
Yes.
or Zelle them.
Yes.
And that's another way that complete strangers could lure your child and manipulate them.
Yeah, so let me just give you an example. There were so many kids that graduated, and congrats to all the graduates. But parents, what I saw is that you said, hey, Carla graduated, let's just say from Adeline Middle School. And then you post Carla, and then you tag, say, like 10 friends. Let's just imagine all those friends have 1,000 people, plus I have 1,000. So that's 11,000 people I have given Carla to, because once I tag them, that tag goes on everyone's page, right? And then I shared that Carla, you want to give her money that she did well, so then I share Carla's Cash App. The reality is, parents, is that predators are now paying our children through Cash App, Zelle, and Venmo. Let's just think about it. When is the last time really we have received $1 of money? Most of everything now is very digital. And so I want parents to understand those things that places our children at risk. Please, parents, don't share your kids' Venmo accounts, because most of the time those accounts are in the parent's name. And so if the children are accepting things illegal, it also puts the parent at risk of law enforcement coming in.
Wow. So tell me, you created 3 books.
I did.
One of which was your thesis.
Yes.
When you were getting your master's from St. Mary's.
St. Mary's, yes.
And this
Go
book is
Gales.
called Cyber Pimp.
Yes.
Yeah, this is awesome. So tell me about what you learned while you were putting this book together. How it's made an impact in society.
Yes, so the Cyber Pimp just talks about the story of me back when I was growing up. My mother was worried about the Cadillac pimp. And that was generally an older man that drove a Cadillac that probably preyed on young girls at high school. And he drove around schools looking. And so then we moved on to the tennis shoe pimp. And that was, well, we can laugh now, but that was just a person who didn't have a car and they walked around in tennis shoes. Then we had the bicycle pimp. Now we have I consider the Maserati or the invisible pimp, because we don't know who is pimping our children through the devices. And so Cyber Pimp came up because I wanted to grab people's attention. The Cyber Pimp is online and we can't see him or her. And I also want parents to know that pimps now can be women, and they can also be children. Children can pimp other children.
That's pretty shocking. I've done some training where I actually learned that children that are in the foster care system are even more so at risk of being taken advantage of.
Yes, and so I totally agree, but I wrote these books to let parents understand any child can be trafficked if you are not monitoring. And the thing is, those children that are in systems are more at risk, correct, because it's called adverse childhood experiences, meaning there are things that places children more at risk. For instance, say your child is being raised in a home where a parent has mental health or a parent is incarcerated. Maybe that child is being bullied, right? Or they may have substance abuse issues, right, with themselves or with the parent. Those things places a child more at risk to being trafficked, right? But what I'm saying is, if a child has a phone or is able to play a gaming device and the parents are not monitoring, those things places a child at risk for being trafficked.
Wow. Well, you have certainly educated us. Parents, guardians, grandparents.
Yes.
Everybody should become aware.
Yes.
And you have not only the Cyber Pimp, but you have Ready, Set, Game, and you also have Don't Chat Back.
Yes. And so this real quick, Operation Don't Chat Back is Nia. Nia is chatting with someone online that she believes is her friend, and it's not. And her mom is telling her that is not safe, Nia. And then we did Ready, Set, Game because I wanted my fathers to understand your sons are susceptible to being trafficked. You used to hear that people thought only girls were being trafficked. Sons are being trafficked because they are being trafficked through gaming devices, the Xbox, PlayStation. The games like Roblox, Fortnite, and Grand Theft Auto has a chatting component, which allows kids to chat with unknown people all through the world. And they're usually talking to them like, hey, what's your name? Hi, Carla. How you doing? And generally those predators will find your children to play with because they are getting information out of them. So fathers, understand your sons can be trafficked too.
Okay. And you know, Monee, tell us what's your website so that people can get even more information.
Yes, it'll be www.knotourkidz.com. And the not means all of us, parents, kids in the community. Our children are not going to be trafficked at all. And I just want to say one last thing, Carla, that I'm also want to talk to the education system, because during COVID, the school system gave all our kids computers. They also gave them Wi-Fi and email. But what they failed to do is educate the parents on how are you guys monitoring these thousands of kids through the school computers, because the reality is that's another access, the school computers. And so I would love to have a conversation with the education system and say, how are you keeping our kids safe through the school computers?
Okay. Well, all advocates, community members, join Monee Brown and the Not Our Kids movement to keep our children safe in the cyber world. Thank you so much. Thank you, Monee.
Thank you for having me.